Hello, 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 welcome one and all. Just going to move my microphone so you can hear me. Welcome one and all to the eModels.co.uk YouTube channel. Yes, hope you can hear and see me okay. Do let me know in chat if there's any problems. But welcome to a new video build series from me. Yes. First and foremost, don't forget this is of course a video stream for eModels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all your model making needs. I had to think then. Been a while since I've said that. All your model making needs. So yeah, if you do need to pick up any goods and modelly stuff, anything you see in these videos, then make sure to go to eModels.co.uk and pick stuff up. Lots of awesome things in stock. All the links in the description below the video. But welcome one and all. Now, what's going to be happening today? Well, I have a couple of things on the go for eModels at the moment, but today I'm going to start an interim build because I'm supposed to be doing the big Imperial Knight Canis Rex, but I'm just waiting on doing that. So in the meantime, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a gap filling build, which is the Russian T62A Tank. Now there's a very specific reason I'm doing this kit, I'll explain in a minute, but we're going to be doing the Tamiya kit. And now we've always said, if you're just getting into model making, or if you've been carrying out, like doing other kinds of model making, and this is your first foray into armour and you're thinking, I want to try and do maybe tanks or something like that, then we've always strongly recommended you check out some of the Tamiya kits, some of the, the early sort of 1970s, 1980s Tamiya kits, because there are lots and lots of things available, lots of different armour kits available. There's Riffield and Dragam and Tacom and Tamiya and all the different ones. And they all range in loads of different price ranges. But if you're just starting out, you don't want to go out and buy like a dead expensive, say, Riffield tank kit just to try out tanks. You might not like tanks. You might decide that tanks aren't for you. So we've always said if you're just starting out and you want a nice straightforward build just to get the feel for it, see if it's your thing, then check out some of the Tamiya stuff. And like I say, today we're going to be doing the Tamiya T62A. This is actually a 1982 printing. I think this is a kit from about 1982. A lot of the military miniature series, it first came out in the late 70s. Been going forever. They've got billions of kits, and this is one of the earliest ones. And a load of these, they're like dirt cheap. This was, I think, 17 quid or something, and you get a brilliant 1/35 scale tank for it. And if you're just starting out, or you just want to give tanks a quick go, or armour a quick go, or World War II military vehicles or something, check out one of these. Dead simple build, great fun to paint, and then you'll be like, I like tanks now, I can go and get some of the bigger, better, more modern kits. Yes. So we're going to check this one out today. Just a quick hello to everybody. I know that Angus and Cora Pink are in the chat. If you are watching this and you want to join in the live chat, please do feel free. If you're watching this embedded on the eModels site, you can just click on the little YouTube icon in the bottom right hand corner and open it in a new tab. Keep the eModels site open because you might need to pick some stuff up. But keep on watching. If you go to that YouTube link, it'll take you to YouTube where you can carry on watching and join the live chat. Now, I'm a bit all tizzle today. I don't know why I'm a bit tripping over my words. I've got an enormous cup of tea. Yum, yum, yum. So I'm ready to roll. Apologies if I'm a bit flustered. I don't normally do streams this early, but I have various reasons to do it this early, so here we go. Now, I don't expect millions of people to be in chat today because it is early and a lot of people are at work. So, but anyone who can join, do come and join the live chat if you can. Now, I will have the... I'm talking rubbish today, I do apologise. I will have the chat here in front of me, but if you want to catch my attention, because I will have my magnifying lenses on to see things, just make sure that you type your comment in big, fat, massive capital letters, so it pops up the comment and I can see it with my lenses on. Or if you want to catch my attention, you can put @ModelMakingGuru, because I'm signed into chat as Model Making Guru. Put @ModelMakingGuru in the chat, and then it'll put my name in an orange box, and I can see your comment more clearly. But apologies if I miss your comment. Do put if you ask me a question and I miss it, just give it a few minutes and try it again. Gemma's in. Hi Gemma, big hugs to you, Gem. Welcome. What else was I going to say? It's a while since I've done an eModel stream, so I'm a bit at 6s and 7s at the minute. I've got my own streams that I do, and I'm kind of used to my own routine, but I have to be all professional for eModels because it's eModels. So yes. So what I'm gonna do today is, like I say, I'm going to be filming a painting tutorial for this, but I thought I'll get the build bit, like I did with the Millennium Falcon and the Imperial Knight. I'll get the build part done on a stream, because it's not complicated, it's not hard. I can do it while I'm hanging out with you guys. So I thought I'll get this bit done, and when I do the filming, that'll be about the actual painting and decals and stuff like that. Now, why am I building this kit, this specific kit? This is me revisiting my childhood, and I've told this story many times before, but basically when I was much younger, when I was a wee shaver of a lad back in about 1980, probably about 1982 or 3, when I was a kid, I used to get model kits all the time. When I get my spends, when I was old enough to, I'd get on the bus into town, all by myself, big grown up and everything, get on the bus, and I head to my local model shop, which nowadays it just sells remote control and trains. So it's like, that's why I go to eModels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all your model making needs. Yes, so anyway, I used to go there and spend my spends on model kits, and I get these model kits, and all I would do is I get my tube of glue, yes, tube of glue back in those days, and I would literally get the kit, build it, and play with it like a toy. It would be messily built, it would be just pulling things off the sprues. I was a kid, I didn't know better. To me, they were just toys that I got to build, and I enjoyed the building process. And about 1982 or 3, I hadn't done one for a little while, and my dad just says to me, you know what? You like making these models, don't you? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, but you don't play with toys anymore. I said, no, I'm too old to play with toys. He said, well, why don't I take you to the model shop? We'll get you a kit, we'll get you some proper paints and all the bits you need, and you can do a proper model kit and paint it up and make it look real, and you can do it properly. And I'm like, okay, I'd never considered such things. So he took me to a big model shop in Manchester, which isn't there anymore. And he said, right, whatever kit you want, you get, and we'll order all the paints and stuff. So I went round the shelves. I was like literally a kid in a candy store, but literally a kid in a model store. I didn't know what I wanted. There's all kinds of things. Anyway, I saw one of these, and I don't know why this particularly jumped out at me, but I saw this kit, and I thought, I want that. And then we got the box, and we got the paints and the instructions and stuff, and we ordered all the bits, and I came home and I made it. Now, back in them days, of course, I had no experience of any of this stuff. I think I'd also, my dad had got me a book on how to make models. I've got a couple of them still here in the house. So I had a book that told me the basics, but basically I had this kit. When I originally built this, what I did was I built it, but I took a bit more time building it. I got cutters and things. I built it, I painted it, and then I weathered it. And when I say painted it, what I mean is I got the paint, the Tamiya, whatever, olive drab or whatever, and literally just brushed it on. No primer, none of that stuff. It was literally bare plastic, brushing on Tamiya paints. I know. You wouldn't today. You wouldn't do that. And then the weathering was basically a dry brush of silver, chrome silver, and a wash of black, and that was it. Maybe a dry brush of black around the wheels to suggest soil or dirt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to revisit this kit, because it's been, 40 years now? 82, 2000. Yeah, 40 years since I made this kit as a child, and it was the first proper kit I built and painted properly. So I'm going to revisit this. I'm going to build it with my full skills that I have now, and also when it comes to painting it, paint it all proper like, with all the things that I now know how to do, that I have learned, what I have learned over the years. Frankie Goes to Hobbywood is in. Welcome, Frankie. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Now we're going to go through the bits and the sprues and stuff, and we'll start building in a second. One thing I've noticed though is since the days, I had a torrent of memories when I opened these instructions. I'm not even on camera, am I? When I opened these instructions for the first time, like about a week ago, because I hadn't really opened the box, and it was like, I haven't seen these instructions in 40 years, and it's like, oh, it all came flooding back. Most notably, the fact that Tamiya always have their comedy dude in the instructions. If it's a Russian tank, it's a big meaty looking Russian tank driver. If it was German World War II, it'd be a comedy Nazi. If it was Allied, it'd be a Tommy with his helmet. It's always the same, but they always have this comedy tank driver or comedy character who's telling you how to do things. And I've forgotten all that. And all the photographs in the instructions, it all just came flooding back. Now, it's not a complicated build. Like I say, this is a real, because these are vintage kits, they are ideal for beginners and ideal for those first getting into into say, for example, this genre armour. B3's in. Hello, I am absolutely not skiving and watching this in work time. Glad to hear it, B3. Don't skive, Steve. But it's not straight. It's not a complicated build. It's great for beginners, great for if you're starting out in armour. And like I say, these are really amazingly priced. This was, I think this is about 15 or 16 quid. And you get a nice 1/35 tank. It's not a big complicated build like a modern tank with individual track links and billions of tons of photo etch. It's not even trying to be that. But the thing is, with these early Tamiya kits, whether it's tanks or the vehicles or anything like that, some of these are 40, 45 years old, and they even now, today, put some manufacturers to shame. So as we go along, you'll see it's a really nice little kit. So if you just got, you want to spend not a lot of money on a tank and try it out, 15, 16 quid. It's less than you spend going to the pub, and you get a nice tank out of it. So we'll get that on. Now, one thing I've noticed different, I didn't get at the time, you also get the instructions in Japanese, because obviously Tamiya is a Japanese manufacturer, and rather than just put different instructions in, I assume they just put both sets of instructions in. Seems a bit wasteful, but there you go. So we get exactly the same instructions in Japanese, which are no use to us at all, but well, thank you. And we also nowadays get this little tech tips guide, which you never used to get in the old days. And this is giving you the basics, like how to get things off sprues, how to use a pin vise, how to use CA glue and different types of glue to use, obviously all Tamiya glues, how to test fit things, how to deal with plated parts. No plated parts here, thank you. How to use rattle cans, which you definitely didn't have anything like this back in the old days when I was a young lad. So that's quite nice. You get a little tech tips thing. It does mention rattle cans, and it even actually mentions rattle cans in the instructions here about spray painting. Now, I don't recall when I was a young lad that it mentioned anything about spray painting, because when I was young lad, I didn't have an airbrush, it was all brush painting. I don't remember if it mentioned spray painting with rattle cans. I don't even know if Tamiya rattle cans existed in 1983, 1984. They may have done. It was, at the time, if you had an airbrush and you weren't a professional, you could get a rattle can for your airbrush, but I don't know if Tamiya had rattle can paints. They probably did, but I don't remember. Anyway, that's that. So I'm going to have a swig of tea. Who else is there? Anyone else coming yet? Not yet. And we shall get going. Now, the other thing to note about these kits is they come with what some people dread: rubber band tracks. Look at that. Looks like a roll of film. Rubber band tracks. It's basically one long track piece, moulded in a sort of gunmetal silver plastic vinyl colour. And the way it works is you have three little pins at this. I don't know if you can really see, it's a bit dark. 3 little pins that stick out and a set of holes here. And what you do is you push them together, and then using a hot screwdriver, you could melt those little pins to flatten it out, or you could just simply staple it, and then you put the tank track on the model. And now we're not going to assemble this bit yet. We're not going to stick these together yet because we need to keep these straight for painting. Now these tracks themselves do present a challenge, because unlike proper plastic tracks, there's a lot of things I can't do with these. I want to obviously make this tank weathered, but I can't unfortunately take the risk of using things like enamel weathering solutions or anything like that, oil paints with thinners, oil paint washes or anything on these tracks, because I don't know how they'll react to things like oil or enamel paint thinners or any kind of thinners. So it's going to present some challenges when it comes to painting and weathering, but we'll get through. We'll see how it comes out. It's a learning experience, because it's been about 30 years since I've made a tank with rubber tracks. It's probably been about 30 years since I made a tank, full stop, but it's been about 30 years since I made a tank with rubber tracks, not including the little chibi tanks, which I didn't really do, a careful job on. They were just made for fun, but a proper weathered tank. So we shall find out what happens with these, but of course you get 2 of these obs. So we shall see how those goes. I've got some ideas how to paint and weather those, but other than that, we've got the bits. So I'll just get the bits. Now, I haven't actually taken them out of the bags or anything yet, so we've got some crinkly bag sounds for you. ASMR fans out there. I can get them out of the box. I shall put the tracks back in the box. Get back in the box! And we'll get these bags open. Now, the one thing that does amaze me, and I'd forgotten all about this, I had no memory of this at all when I originally built this, We like to think of the whole thing of photo etch and stuff as a modern development, something that happened in the last, 4 or 5 or maybe 10 years, that you start getting photo etch in model kits. However, it's not, a standard, but it's not quite correct, because I'd forgotten that this kit includes not photo etch, but it does include, if I can get the packaging off, it does include a piece of wire mesh for the engine cover grille at the back. It's not photo etch, it's full on wire mesh. It's quite stiff and doesn't really flex. And I'd forgotten all about this. And I'd always thought that these old vintage Tamiya kits were fairly basic, that they didn't have any photo etch or metal parts in them, but it seems that they did. So yeah, that's not bad at all for 1980. Whatever it was, might have been about 1978 this came out, this kit, so that's not bad at all. And like I say, they were way ahead of the competition at the time. These were like in those days, this was the best tank kits you were going to get, and the best armour kits and everything like that. Tamiya was like the leading manufacturer back in those days. But even today, they still, kick the backside of many modern tank manufacturers. We'll show you here, we've got the upper hull cover, and you can see just the nice little detail. Like I say, it's not exactly, like Ryefield. You'd have all these little hinges and latches would be things you'd actually glue on, and it's got a shovel moulded into the armour there. But you know what? For 17 quid, 15 quid, whatever this is, it's pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good. And I like the details. I do apologise, it's quite dark and hard to see stuff on it because it's a dark olive green plastic, but I hope you get the idea. So it's not exactly a highly detailed tank anyway, the T62, but it's got plenty of detail built into it. Lots of nice crisp production. Again, this is a 40-odd-year-old kit, 45-year-old kit, and yet I'm not really seeing any flash. A little bit of flash on this log. I'm seeing crisp details. I'm seeing lovely square edges and crisp, fine recesses in these jerry cans. Oh, jerry cans. So yeah, for a 45-year-old kit, beats the pants off modern day kits, some of them. Lots of crisp detail here. So it's not got a massive amount of parts. It's not a complicated vehicle in reality, the T62. So now the one thing that I've forgotten about tanks, or I've not experienced for a while, because I've not done a tank for a while, is assembling hundreds of road wheels. Yeah. There's 2 things that put me off tanks nowadays. One is individual link tracks. I really don't like the idea of making individual link tracks because I'm a big girly coward and I would lose the will to live. But also, yeah, building all the wheels. Brrr. Yeah, that'll take a little bit of time to get them all assembled. Remember being a kid and assembling tanks and gluing all the wheels together, and you get one of them wonky and you get all the glue fumes. Yeah. And of course, being 1/35th, you get a nice big figure with it as well. And again, even today, they're figures, although you look at them and they're kind of... I'm used to building like, Games Workshop and miniatures and things like that, so the details are soft and fluffy, but even by today's standards, they still beat the pants off a lot of other manufacturers even today. So unlike some manufacturers, Tamiya understands how the human body works and how long things need to be and proportions and things. So yes. So we have many parts. Where are we? Now you do get with this. Steve at B3, who's is known for doing his scratch build thing, says, "I'm sure it's a fabulous tank model, but to me it's just potential shuttlecraft and a load of greebles." Yeah, Steve doesn't build doesn't build kits. He doesn't get a kit and builds it. He gets a kit and uses all the parts to make a spaceship. Steve's awesome. Let's have a look. Who else in chat? Nobody else has popped up in chat. Yes. Steve is partially paying attention in case something drops at work. Ted would recommend the weathering pencils, says Frankie, about the tracks. He absolutely would. I'm going to put these decals away safe in a box. Hang on a second. Just put them in the box again, so they don't get damaged. The funny thing is, I've got a decal stash of like all the decals I've never used in kits over the years, and I think I've still got the original decals from my original 40-year-old build of this. The ones I didn't use. They're probably still in a bag somewhere. Athol Nichols in. Good morning, Red Panda fans. I'm within and it is sunny outside but very windy. Hi Athol. Yeah, it's sunny here actually and not windy at all. Now you may notice with this kit you get these polycaps, little rubber polyvinyl polycaps. I assume they're polyvinyl, or polyethylene. And you might be thinking, why have you got little rubber caps? Two reasons. Well, these go into the wheels so that the wheels can actually turn on the axles. And you might be thinking, well, why do you need the wheels to turn on the axles? It's just a display model. Well, the thing is, these old Tamiya kits, they're designed so that if you wanted to, you could put a motor in it. And you'll notice it's got this bizarre little square hole here and batteries printed on the inside. And the idea was that they had little kits that you could buy to put into these, and there'd be a power switch in there, on, off, and you'd buy a motor, and via some magical shenanigans, which I assume you get some kind of part that comes through the drive wheels here, it would turn the drive sprocket and the whole thing would move, and you'd have the rubber band track so it could trundle along. I've never seen anyone actually make one of these motorised. It did make me wonder as a kid, because I never saw the kit to make it motorised. As you can see, there's the space for the motor. I never saw the kit in the local model shops how to make it motorised. I've never seen anybody do that, but I'm sure somebody has. But yeah, you could turn it on and it would trundle along, assuming it would trundle along. I mean, I used to, when I made a few of these before I started painting them, and you know, you try and play with them, and they didn't really trundle very well. But I didn't have an electric motor in it, did I? So there you go. Anyway, yes, so there we are. So you can motorise these if you so desire. But today it's all going to be about just getting this thing assembled. I'm going to put this, where's my little tray of bits? There you go, keep that little bit there. We're going to get some of this assembled. Don't know how much we'll get done today, but we'll do as much as we can. We'll probably go for 2 or 3 hours, go up until about lunchtime or so. And I'll do this over a few streams, assuming I don't get it all built today. We'll go over a few streams and just get it all assembled. Now, I do apologise if everything looks a little oh, it's very overexposed. Let me just adjust that. Hang on a second. Everything's exploding. Is that better? Yeah, a little bit better. It's just the way the light shines on the instructions. So we'll get as much built as we can. We'll probably stick to some sub-assemblies, but I have to warn you, the first thing to do is building all the wheels. So it's not going to be exciting today. Now, I'm not going to be worrying too much about the polycaps and stuff like that. I'm not worried about if the wheels turn. So I won't be taking too much care with the polycaps, but we'll get that done. But anyway, yes, if you are watching this, do make sure, if you're in the live chat, to say hello. If you're watching this on a mobile device and you can't see where the chat is, just simply scroll down it's usually under the video if you're on a mobile device. Now, I can't see how many of you I know it's got a view counter at the top there, but unfortunately I can't see how many of you are watching because I'm not signed in as eModels to the streaming software, so I assume many of you are watching, so welcome to all of you. Now, I will do my best to hang out and chat with you and answer questions, but do feel free to ask me questions and stuff. I will do my best to answer them. So let us crack on. So we need to start off with the wheels. So we need this sprue first. There are many, many wheels. I need my lenses of seeing. Now, as always, this is an eModels stream. So first of all, make sure, clean my lenses, make sure to visit eModels.co.uk to pick up some supplies. Don't forget though, it is an eModels stream on the eModels channel for eModels.co.uk, the model retailer, so please don't discuss other model retailers in the chat and other competitors to eModels. That's just not the done thing. And please keep it clean and family friendly. This is a family friendly channel. So no rude words, please. No grown-up subjects, no politics and religion, all that kind of stuff. Let's just keep it nice and friendly. And I am aiming this build at beginners because the lens is filthy. Because I'm revisiting my childhood build, of course. I'm going to tailor this towards people who don't know anything about model making. So if you are an experienced model maker or you know what you're doing, I do apologise if some of this seems a bit patronising perhaps or a bit oversimplified. I am going to tailor it towards the younger builders, and well, there will be some airbrush. That's the funny thing, that there will be some airbrush work, so yeah, never mind. P3 says it's cold, grey and grim in Manchester, but that's par for the course up north, and the powers that be keep the heating off, so we have to keep working to stay warm. There, get away from the heater is your boss, a Yorkshireman. So we're going to get started. So we're going to get bits off the sprue, and remember, I'm going to tailor this for beginners. So the first thing I've done is I've put a fresh blade in my hobby knife, my modelling knife. whenever you start a new project, always start with a fresh blade, just to make sure you get nice clean cuts. And I also have here various pairs of cutters and side cutters to get the parts off sprues. Now what you don't want to do is just twist things off the sprue. Everything's attached to these sprues on little gates. The sprue is this framework and all the parts are on there, and you've got these little gates. Some people call this tree. And you want to get the parts off, but you could just twist these wheels off, but the risk is when you twist something off like that, the risk is that you get the break between the tree and the part. It may take some of the part plastic with it. It may break off unevenly and take some of that part with it. So you may end up with a ding or a chip or a little divot in the part. Now on a road wheel, it doesn't really matter because we're going to be putting little divots and chips in those anyway. But when it's something that needs to be nice and neat, like a flat piece of armour panel or something like that, or you know, this bloke's elbow, you don't really want to be doing that because it just makes it look a bit shoddy. So you want to make sure you're getting the parts off the sprues. For that, I recommend using your cutters to get the part off the sprue first. Donald Mackenzie's in. Welcome, Donald. Thank you for coming along. So I recommend use your cutters. You can get parts off the sprue with a knife, but again, you're pressing down, parts can ping off and you might damage the part because you're bending it on your desk. So get some cutters, some side cutters, Tamiya side cutters, or these. You've got the Mong do a set of side cutters. There's quite a few in store, so go and check them out. I need to just put a t-shirt down on the bench because I've got my sore elbow and it hurts. So we need to start off doing the idler wheels. Make 2 sets, or the Spanrad as it says. The instructions are in German and English, but that's it. You've either got English or you've got German end of. So we need to make the Spanrad, which is A3 and A21. So 2 lots of those. So let's have a look and see. A3 and A21. A3. Well, there's A21. You can see there. So I'm just going to get the piece on the sprue. I'm not going to put the cutters right against the part. That's the important bit. Get the cutters and leave about 1 millimetre of plastic. We can clean that up in a minute. It's all about avoiding damaging the part. You want it to be as clean and neat as possible when you're coming to assemble the model. So make sure when you cut it off the sprue, you just leave yourself a little tiny millimetre or 2 of the plastic, just there. Now I might actually move. Is it worth me moving the camera a bit? I'm a bit far away, aren't I? Tell you what, let me do. I'm just going to do something because we're not going to be doing anything big today. So let's have a look and see if we can make things a bit zoomy in for you, a bit bigger and better. Where are we? Right, that's there. There's the. Where's the centre? There's the centre. Move it in a bit. We'll get this in focus. That is to focus. Where's my magical focus tool, which is there? There we are. Focusing now, sir. Ish, there we go. A bit better. Now, I do apologise, of course, we're on a webcam. It's not the most amazing quality picture in the world on a webcam, but never mind. We'll survive. Let me know if it's too dark or too bright or anything. Hopefully you can all see okay. A bit more brightness, I think. Just while we're not looking at instructions. There we go. So hopefully everything's all right for you. Do let me know if it looks okay, if it sounds okay. I don't know until you tell me. So we've got those 2 there, A21, and we need A3. So we need 2 of the A3s. A3. You can see on the sprue the parts are all numbered and they have a little tab with the number on. And we want A3, which looks like that. And where is that? Let me just hang on, making adjustments. Yeah, do let me know if it looks okay, if it looks too dark or too light or whatever. I need you to tell me. A3 is that one. You see that? I don't know if you can see it because it's dark plastic, A3. So again, we'll cut these off the sprue, leave a little millimetre of plastic. And again, for any experienced builders out there, bear with me as I go through the basics because, like I say, I am tailoring this for people with very little experience, new builders. And we need 2 poly caps, but I'll cut them off the sprue in a second. So what we need to do is get these cleaned up. So I'll get my little sandy buffy cleany mat that I use in completely the wrong way. Now there's several ways you can do this. There's several ways you can clean off nubs. In fact, I won't do that because you can't see them. There's several ways you can clean up nubs. We now have these wheels there with a little tiny, and I really regret the fact this is a dark green plastic, but never mind. Our bleeder's in, says looks okay, cool, welcome Al, welcome. Donald Mackenzie's in, we said that, morning Donald. Yeah, so you've got this little tiny bit sticking out, so we need to get these off. Now there's several ways you can do this. Some people like to just start off by carving them off with a knife, you can do that. Some people like to go in with a very, very fine set of nippers. These are Mr. Hobby, Mr. Tools, Mr. Nippers. And these are kind of a medium gauge for getting things off sprues. These are a pair of God hands. You can't get these from eModels, unfortunately, or from anywhere in the UK very easily. But other very fine nippers are available. So if you've got a medium set of cutters, you can get a set of like really, really fine ones. These are quite good for cutting it really flush to the plastic. You just snip them like that. But there's still work to do. Or like I say, some people like to carve with a knife. Now, if you like to carve with a knife, if you're a younger builder, get someone to do this for you. Some people like to get the piece on the desk and cut like this. I don't recommend that because, again, you're bending a part. You don't want to be bending things. You're putting pressure on it. And also you're putting pressure on the blade, and blades can snap. I like to carve a piece off with the blade. Now I'm going to carve this towards myself. I do not recommend you do this. I just do this because I'm an idiot and I can't do it any other way. If you're going to carve things off, I do recommend you carve away from yourself. But I carve towards myself. I make sure my fingers and things are out of the way, and I brace my thumbs. And what I do is, and I know you probably can't see this because it's dark plastic, I don't just cut the piece off straight away again. I'm trying to make sure I don't damage the actual part. I don't want to cut a gouge out of it. So what I'll do is I will gently shave that part down. Just very gently. I'm bracing my thumbs against each other so I don't slip. I'm not going right to the bottom of the nub. I'm starting halfway up and I'm just shaving it slowly so that I can get close to the surface but not right against it. Because you don't want to... If I get the knife right at the bottom of the nub and I tilt it too far, I'll dig into the part and I'll end up with a divot or a crater, which I don't really want. So I'm just running it along. And again, there's still work to do on there. So you can do it that way. Again, I would recommend you do it away from yourself if you can. Some people can, I can't. But be very careful with your knife blade. That's the least safe way of doing it. Some people like to just sand and use either, where's it gone? Metal files, or just use their sanding sponges and sanding sticks to go and just start doing that straight away, which you can do. You can just get the nub and you can just start sanding, but it's quite a big nub and this is a circular part and you don't want to sand anything flat, so I would recommend a mixture. Get yourself your fine cutters or your blade, and just like these are the fine cutters, just go right to the edge, to the surface. These can go right down to the surface without actually cutting into the part. Make sure you use the flat side of it. And you could do this with the other nippers, but the other ones are quite heavy gauge, so they might just pull the plastic out. If they pull the plastic, it can stretch it and tense it and make divots, so go for fine cutters. Then once that's done, then you can go in with your sanding sticks or sanding sponges, just to very gently sand that flat and smooth. So what I'll tend to do, there's different ways you can do it. You can use a sanding stick, which is like a rigid piece of sort of card with sanding paper on it. You can use sanding sponges, which are spongy and flexible and can shape around objects, or some people just like to use sandpaper. But whichever you prefer, you want to make sure you don't make a flat area. These are the ultimate sanding sticks and sponges which you can get from eModels. And all I like to do is basically, I've got I don't know what grit that is, it's a rough one. They don't print the grits on the sanding sponges, so I can't tell you. But I'll start off with a rougher grit, which means it feels, you can probably hear that, it feels rough. Start off with the rougher grit, just to get rid of that nub. I'm not putting any pressure on here at all, very, very gentle. I'm letting the weight of the stick do the work. A little bit of that. And what I'm doing is I'm following the curve of the wheel. I'm not going like this, I'm going like that. I'm just going to pause for one moment because I think I can hear the front door. I'll be back in a moment. Sorry about that, I thought it was the front door, but it wasn't. Right, so yeah, so when you are sanding, start off with the rougher grit just to get rid of whatever remains of the nub. Follow the shape. If it's a rigid standing stick like this, follow the shape. Don't just go in a straight line because that will make a flat spot. If you've got a sanding sponge or something like that, it will conform a bit better to the surface, but still make sure you're following that curve. And once you've gone over with the rough to get rid of the nub, what we need to do then, we've got I don't know if you'll see it again. Apologies, it's a dark part. It's not ideal. It's got scratches and scrapes where that rough sanding sponge or stick has scratched into the plastic. So we've got rid of the nub. We now need to clean that up so that when this is painted you don't see all that roughness. So what you do is you go for a softer, smoother, finer grit sanding sponge or sanding stick. Finer grit just means the particles in here are smaller and it does less scratchiness. It's softer. And what this will do, we'll do exactly the same again. We'll follow the curve. Again, not putting much pressure on at all. With this one we can go like this as well. We can, if you're going to go that way around, you can angle. I'm still angling it, but you're doing it this way. And the trick we're doing here, we're not actually sanding the nub away because the nub is gone. What we're actually doing is sanding smooth all the little ridges that we've made with the other sanding sponge. We're actually cleaning up the sanding marks. So you always use a rough grit to start with to get rid of the bit you need to get rid of. Could be a mould line or a gap or a seam or putty that you filled the gap with. And then every step after that is clean up just to make it nice and smooth. So I'm just working my way over. I'm going in all different directions. And what this is doing is it's replacing all the sanding marks that the rough sanding stick put in, and it's replacing them with finer sanding marks, which are harder to see. There we go. And that is now much smoother. Now you could continue going up the grit. If you were making, say, a shiny sports car or say a jet plane that needs to be nice and shiny, it's got to be something clean and not weathered, then I would recommend going further and further up the grit. So get with a finer grit each time until you've basically got smooth plastic and there's no sanding marks remaining. But for something like this, which is a tank, and it's going to be weathered and dirty anyway, that sort of two-step is absolutely fine. It's hidden the scratches enough that now looks uniform and smooth. And once it's got primer and paint on it, you won't even see any of those. So we need to do the same again. So we shall start off with the cutters just to get rid of that little bit of a nub there. So I do recommend that you have, as well as your modelling knife, that you have at least a good set of side cutters, medium cutters, but also if you can, get yourself some fine cutters as well, because these are the ones that you can really go right up to the plastic. With medium cutters like these, they are very, very good, but if you put them right, when you cut with them, they will squidge the plastic a little bit and kind of pull it, and that's where you tend to get damage in your part. So get a real fine set as well. So we'll just sand these. We'll start with the rough grit. Again, following the curve, and this is just to get rid of that little tiny bit of nub that's left. Like, you could do it that way, but you don't want to flatten any curved surfaces. It is difficult when you're doing curved surfaces. You want to maintain that curve. It's very easy just to sand a flat spot, and then it looks really obvious. Now, if you're making, say, a wheel on a vehicle, like a tired wheel, so you're making a truck or something, and it's got plastic wheels, it's not got rubber tyres, you could sand a flat spot on that, because that would simulate the weight of the vehicle pushing the tyre flat on the ground. Now, of course, it's not completely realistic because the tyre also bells out to the sides in reality, but wouldn't do. But that's more of an advanced technique. We're not showing that. Plus, it's a tank that doesn't have air-filled tyres on it. So that one's done. That one's that one. So we'll come back with the medium grit again. I think this is about, I don't know, I'm going to guess about 800 grit maybe. The way sanding grits work is the smaller the number, the bigger the particles on the sandpaper or on the sanding sponge, and therefore the rougher it is. So like a 100 grit would have dirty great big crystals on it, and it would gouge the plastic and sand it away, and it would all be very rough, but it would get rid of your stuff quite quickly. 6,000 grit means that the particles are tiny, 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 and that's more of a polishing or a buffing stick. It's just really filing away the tiniest of imperfections. It sort of relates, think of it as 10 grit means there's only, I'm making this up, but the way I remember is the smaller the number means less grains per centimetre squared. So 10 grit might be, there's 10 grains per centimetre squared. A million grit would mean there's a million grains per centimetre, and therefore it's really, really fine. That's not accurate, and that's not actually true. That's just the way I like to think of it. Helps me remember it. So work your way up the grit. Start rough and work your way smoother. Like I say, if you're making a shiny car, or if you're making a model that isn't going to be painted, like a Gumpler or something like that you don't need to paint, then that's when you really want to make sure that by the time you finish your sanding, it looks like absolutely untouched plastic. So that's when you'd have multiple stages of sanding, starting from a big grit, like 100, all the way up to your several thousands, just to make it look like nice clean plastic. So there we go, that's them done. I've just got a little brush here just to get any dust off. So we've got those 4 parts to make 2 wheels. What's happening in chat? Let's have a look. Paul Ditter's in. Hey gang, welcome Paul, welcome. I use nipper first and smooth it with a sanding stick, says Al. Yep. There's various different ways you can do it. For absolute beginners, I would recommend nippers because they're a lot safer than a knife. I would very rarely, not since I was a kid, have I cut something off a sprue with a knife. A knife now is really for carving and cleanup. It's not really for... I don't even use a knife for cutting things in half like parts. I use a little saw for that, but you don't have to do that for this kit. But yeah, it's nippers all the way now. Cut it off the sprue and then clean it up. So we've got 2 polycaps. It does say polycap short. We have 2 long polycaps, as you can see, and lots of short ones. So we'll cut 2 of these off. Now you don't need to clean these up. Doesn't matter. Just cut these as close as you can to the plastic. You can go quite close. That one's getting away. You can go quite close. If you get a little bit of a nub left over, you come back. Just need to nip it off with your cutters. You can cut it off with a knife. For these polycaps, we don't need to worry about a nice smooth surface. So here, for example, you are more than welcome to get your knife, because it's only a little rubber cap. Get your knife and just... Where's it gone? There it is. Just trim off that little bit of a nub. These are interior parts. They're purely just to allow the wheel to rotate on the wheel arm, on the axle. And if you're not worried about rotation, it doesn't even matter. But it just means these go in better. So what you want to do now is make a road wheel. So we need to put the polycap in. These will go together like this, you see. Polycap will sit on there, but it will go in here. I don't know if you can see, is there a little... Yes, on the inside here, in this recess, there's a little tiny peg, you can't really see it, a little square peg there. It's called a key and lock, or lock and key, or a key and hole, and there's a little notch cut out here, so it only goes together one way. That little slot is where that little key goes, and it locks in like that. So I need to make sure I put the polycap in here first. Hopefully on camera. Polycap's in there. Not putting any glue on there because I don't want to glue the polycap in. It doesn't actually matter, but if I wanted the wheels to turn, I would not be gluing that polycap in place. Then that can go together. And we have our first idler wheel. Now I need to glue that together. And I'm going to be using 2 glues for this build. Possibly. I've got 2 glues available. And I'm going to be using 2 different ones. I have Tamiya Extra Thin. And I also have Tamiya regular cement, which I call fat, thin cement, fat cement. The fat cement, as you can no doubt imagine, is thick and gloopy and comes with a dirty grape brush. This is a bit like if you've ever used like Humbrol poly. It's that kind of thick, gloopy cement. And Tamiya Extra Thin is like water. It's just got a tiny little brush and it's like water. And the application for these is quite simple. The use case for these. This stuff is for carefully gluing tiny things together neatly, where you only need a tiny amount of glue, or for anything together really, where you only need a tiny amount of glue. And it works by capillary action. This glue is very viscous and thick, and this is where you've got large things that need gluing together, like you've got 2 large flat things with a big surface area that you need to go together and stick together. If you've got parts that need to support their own weight while they're gluing, let's say you're gluing an arm onto a figure, you'd do that with this, because this is viscous and it will just by surface tension hold that part in place for a few minutes till the glue does its thing. This stuff evaporates away really quickly and takes 20 or 30 seconds to start melting the plastic together. So if I glue two heavy things together, they just fall apart. So this is where you'd use the thick cement for load bearing structures and things. We'll see that when I glue the arms on the dude and some other bits. But for this, we're going to use the extra thin. And it's quite simple. We've put these two parts together. Remember, we didn't want to get glue in the polycap. I'm not going to have the wheels rotating specifically, because I'm not putting a motor in this. But if you wanted to glue these together without getting glue on the polycap, all you do, you put them together. You get your extra thin. You get most of it off the brush because you don't want to drown it, and you just touch it to the connection point between the two. I'm just literally touching the brush to where the two different wheels meet, the little gap. And because this is so thin, the capillary action will suck the glue into that plastic, into that little gap, and glue those two together. I'll make sure they're lined up. Make sure they're lined up. There's a little bit of play in them, so I want to make sure they line up properly. And there you go. Now the way these cements work, these aren't necessarily glues. They're not actually sticking to themselves. The way these cements work is that they're welding cements. They melt the plastic and then fuse it together. So if you've got two bits of plastic like that and you put them together and then you apply some of these cements like this, if you use the extra thin, it will go between all the gaps and it will melt the plastic so that plastic fuses and becomes one piece of plastic. So they will give you some of the strongest bonds between polystyrene. These only work on polystyrenes. They don't work on ABS or anything like that. But they work by melting the plastic. So if you're looking for good strong bonds with your plastic kits, then these welding cements are the absolute best, because they melt that plastic together. Some cements just work, like super glue, for example, cyanoacrylate glue. Don't use super glue on your plastic kits where it's just plastic to plastic. If it's just polystyrene to polystyrene, you wouldn't use super glue, because super glue, it can have powerful grip, but it's very brittle and it breaks, and over time it'll probably degrade anyway. These glues, once the glue's welded the plastic together, the glue evaporates away. There's no glue left. You just have two pieces of plastic welded together. Some glues just act as a bond between the two, but this is literally, as I'm knocking the camera, this literally just melts the plastic. Swig of tea. Vital component in the model maker's arsenal of weapons is a big cup of tea or coffee, if you prefer. Digger Evans is in. Welcome, Digger Evans Model Railway. Is it a really firm hole with the thin stuff? That answers my question. Yes. Yes. They're going to be some of the strongest bonds you'll get between polystyrenes. If you've got non-polystyrenes, there is a glue called, there are other ones available, but there is a glue called Plastic Magic from Deluxe, which eModels do sell, I think, might be in stock. That works on most plastics. It's very similar to this stuff, but it works on things like ABS. If you're building Gunpla and you want to glue it together, some of the plastic is ABS in that, and you'll need that Plastic Magic. If you're doing part works, like some of the D'Agostini plastic part works, like the Millennium Falcon or the X-Wing, again, those plastics are ABS, this stuff won't work. Just polystyrene. So we've built in... what, an hour? We've built two wheels. Woohoo! That's those two idler wheels. I'll do the drive sprockets because there's two of those, and then we've got all the road wheels to do. Not even an hour in, he's building something. This can't be Foxx. It must be an imposter. Exactly. I am not here. So now we've got the two drive sprockets. It does say parts 20 and A2, and we have A20. And A2. All the sprues are labelled A, B, C, D, E. Again, you probably can't see on camera because it's dark. I really wish this wasn't green coloured and hard to see. I made a mistake doing this kit. So each sprue has a letter and each part has a number. So we'll get these two off the sprue. Now you've got to be careful here because it's hard to see sometimes where the actual tooth of the sprocket ends and where the sprue begins. That sounds like a bad perfume advert. I don't know where the wheel ends and you begin. But look carefully, hold it in the light, and you can just about see where the end of the moulded detail is. If you're not sure, cut closer to the actual sprue. Err on the side of caution. And we'll just get this off again, leaving a little extra plastic of the sprue because we can clean that up. Those two parts. And we'll do a bit of this. Now, I have some news. Don't forget, of course, this video is on the eModels channel. For eModels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all your model making needs. All of your needs, all the needs of model making. If you have them, eModels can deal with that for you. Now, as you know, I'm a bit of a Warhammer nerd. I like me some Warhammer. And I can happily report I've been talking to James at eModels, and they've had some issues getting stock of Games Workshop stuff in the store, but they have now resolved this. And in the coming weeks and months, you'll see lots more Games Workshop stuff coming into stock. So keep your eyes peeled. You may not realise they do sell Games Workshop stuff. Yes. And hopefully going forward in the future, I'll be doing a lot more Warhammer and Age of Sigmar based building videos for this channel, so stay tuned. But yes, they've resolved the issues now, so you should see more paints and things like that coming into stock very soon. Now, I also have to apologise. You may at some point hear a strange noise. Next door always does the hoovering on a Wednesday. I don't know why. I assume she has like a lady comes around and does it. I don't know. Entirely possible she has somebody that comes in and does the cleaning. It's always on a Wednesday, so yeah. So you might hear like a or the thumping of a hoover against the skirting boards. Oh, wrong cutters. So I do apologize if you can hear a strange noise. It's next door's lady doing the hooverage. Hooverage. Right. So these are a lot easier to sort out because they've only got these little sprockety things as the point of contact. So all I'm doing is I'm going in quite quickly and just getting rid of any evidence of that sprue on the sprocket. Now I can't really see where they were, but they're just about there. So this, I'm not worried about the curve because these are little pointy sprocket teeth. So we just need to make sure we get rid of any evidence and make sure they come out nice and either flat or pointed, depending on the design of the sprocket. These are kind of rounded on the end, so I can where I need to, I can do a bit of wibbly wobbly to round the end off. But because it's such a tiny area, I don't need to worry about multiple different levels of sanding on these. It's a gear tooth, and it's tiny anyway. But in reality, except when I've got some fluffy stuff, and I'll get rid of that. In reality, on a tank, this kind of surface would probably be quite rough and ready anyway, because it's in constant contact with the tracks and gravel and grit and stones and things. So you wouldn't expect this to be a perfectly smooth surface anyway. It would have some texture to it, so it takes a beating. So we'll make sure this is nice and sorted. So whereas, like, you know, the flat surfaces of the wheels, for example, will be, for the most part, they'd be polished smooth. If you look at a real tank, even that's covered in muck and dirt and everything, see what I've done there, I've actually cut that one a bit too close, so it's a little bit too small, but it's fine. It'll be fine. I admit my mistakes. Yeah, in reality, when you look at a real tank, you know, you'll see areas, for example, like on the road wheels, where they're in constant contact with the tracks. There's a big clean bit right down the middle of the track, and the wheel, if it's not got a rubber tyre on the wheel, it might be polished smooth as shiny metal. So when we do the tracks, you'll see, hopefully, if my plan works, we'll have dirty, filthy, mucky tracks, but with nice clean bits where they've been polished smooth by contact with the road or with the wheels or what have you. Just another way of making your tanks look more convincing. There we go. A couple of polycaps. Do I need to clean the nubs off those? No, they're looking pretty good. And these go together again. We have a key or a lock there, or a notch, and we have the key on the other side, so they will go together like that. Now again, in the old days, you had tuber glue, you put glue around the edge there and you'd squinge it together, and you'd probably get the glue squinging out into where the polycap is, and you'd have sadness. This one, again, we don't do that. We put them together We get the extra thin, and all we need to do is touch it to that key and to the little gap. You can wibble them around a bit to make the gap open up if you need to, but I'm taking most of the glue off the brush when I get it out of the pot. You'll see me, I'm doing this off the edge. You don't need a lot, you just need enough to capillary into the gap, and we're done. There you go. A pot of extra thin will last you a very long time. Hello, she's throwing things around next door. There's banging. Do the next one. There we go. Touch it to the gap. Touch it to the gap. It'll definitely go in where that key and lock is because there's a dirty great big gap in there. There we go. And then that's done. So that's those two. That's the idler sprockets and the drive wheels. Done. Oh, sorry, the idler wheel and the drive sprocket. Get them the right way around, Fox. Now you will notice on this idler sprocket, drive sprocket, you do have this little notch. I don't know if you'll see it. This little notch where the key and lock is. The purists among you, should you choose to, may be tempted to fill that in with some putty or sprue goo or something like that, and then sand it smooth so you don't see that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not going to do that though. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to make sure that bit's not visible. On a tank, you can, if you're not having moving wheels, you could just rotate that reel round so that track hides that. You don't have to worry too much. But there are those who would like doing that, and if that's your thing, go for it. Have a swig of tea. Paul Ditter says, oh great, power cuts. Oh whoa. This tank wouldn't look out of place with your death guard, Fox. True. You mean my death core? Oh yeah, death core Krieg. I've seen a death core T62. It does look quite good. Wibbly wobbly says it all, says Angus Aller. Hey Angus. Yes. Everything is wibbly wobbly. So we just get rid of these little bits, clean up my little workspace. Now we've done the the idler wheel and the drive sprockets. So now it's time to do all the road wheels. There's thousands of these. There's millions of them. There's not really. There's just a few. But this is the bit. Making models is in. Hey Carl, welcome Carl. If you haven't noticed yet, Carl's latest Model T Ford ambulance build video's gone up today. So if you haven't watched it, when you're finished here, make sure to go and have a watch. Where are we up to? So now we need to assemble the wheels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Yeah, 5 on each side. Simple maths, folks. Don't overthink it. So we need to get all these wheels off. So again, you can see on here there's two different types. There's the one with the key, and there's the key there, the little notch, the little nibble sticking out, and the notch there, or the lock for the key to go in. 1979 on that sprue there. There you go. That's the year this kit was designed and first manufactured. 1979. There you go. Now, you don't need to worry too much when you're getting these off the sprue, the road wheels, on this particular build. You want to obviously, as usual, make sure you do a nice clean job with getting your bits off the sprues, but you don't need to worry too much if you do maybe cut too close to a wheel and take a dirty great chunk out of the wheel. Because where the wheel's attached to the sprue is actually the rubber part of the tank wheel. Some tanks have just bare metal wheels, and some tanks have rubber tyres. Now they're solid rubber. I don't know if tyre is what they're actually called. They might be called shoes or something else, but they're basically a rubber tyre on the metal tank wheel. And if you've ever built a tank and you had to paint the black bit around the outside of the wheel, that's the tyre, the rubber bit. So if you do go a bit too close, don't worry, because what we'll do is we'll actually put some damage onto these anyway, because you'll often find on these kind of vehicles that the rubber tyres are often cracked and chipped and damaged. Again, they're in contact with the tracks and moving all the time, and they get hit by stones and all kinds of stuff. That one's gone, bye. And they'll get chips taken out of them. Anything with a solid rubber wheel will get chips and dings and damage. So we can add to the character of the tank by adding some damage to the wheels. I will be weathering this. I don't do clean and shiny, so you can guarantee this will be a grubby, dirty tank with weathering. No, not really any battle damage, save for the chips and dings in the tyres, but you know, other than that. Now, again, these use all the short poly caps. We've got a lot of cleanup to do first. So I'm going to put those in. Let's keep them separate. You don't need to keep them separate, but for the sake of simplicity, let's put these in here. I'll keep these over here. Now, there is one thing different with these wheels. We need to get rid of the nub. Obviously, we need to get rid of the nub. But I don't know if you'll see on camera. If I zoom, I might see if I can zoom in and you'll see it better. Wobbly camera time. If I zoom in, oh, not very far. You might see on the wheel here, there's like a line down the middle. What is this line? This line is actually just where the mould. It's a two-part mould. Two parts come together and the plastic's moulded. This is just a mould line. It's a product of the two-part moulding process, and you get it on pretty much every part. You can't really see it on these very easily. It's kind of hidden away. But on these flat surfaces here, you can definitely see that mould line. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of that, because this needs to be a flat surface. So I'm just going to pull the camera back out. I'm looking a bit dark. Let's put the brightness up a little bit. Can you see that better if I do that? Look. Oops. Zooming in. There you go. You see it a bit better now. There's the mould line. You can see that line going down the middle. So we need to get rid of that. So let's just zoom back out and we'll sort that out. So, what do you do with that? Well, first of all, we need to get rid of the nub. So again, I'm going to take my fine nippers. Handy tip when using any kind of nippers, especially expensive ones, never cut from the tip, cut from the inside. Like that. Again, if you're using a knife, just make sure you don't go too far in. And now for the mould line, there's a couple of things you can do. You can use your knife blade and just gently scrape it away like this. Take a little while. Or I've got myself a Citadel mould line removal tool. Other removal tools are available. They're just blunt but rigid steel blades. They're not sharp, but they've got a nice crisp 90-degree corner. And with these, what you do is 45-degree job. You just pull it along like that, and it will wear that little mould line away. Take a few moments. It'll wear the mould line away, and you'll be left with a nice flat surface. Now you could just sand these as well, but the advantage of using a knife blade or a mould line tool is that it will give you a nice flat, because it's a flat unmoving edge. I'm going to sand that little nub away though, because it's annoying me. I'll sand that nub away first. It gives you a nice smooth flat surface that also absolutely follows the curve of the wheel, because you're dragging it that way. You could use a file as well if you wanted to. The disadvantage of using a knife now, though, is this kind of blade won't bend and flex. I can still feel that nub there. This kind of blade won't bend and flex, so it will give you a nice smooth finish. A knife blade will be bendy and will stretch and bend as you move it round, so it can jump and skitter about. So you might end up with some scratches and scrapes with a knife blade, so you may have to go in and then just sand it later afterwards just to smooth it down. Now you can see this takes a bit of work. It's quite a heavy mould line. It's not a subtle little mould line. It takes a bit of work. So we're going to be doing this for the next 10 or 15 minutes. Sorry folks. But it does leave, that mould line tool does leave a nice smooth surface. There's different versions of this. They're basically just strong, thick steel that doesn't bend. That's what gives you the nice smooth surface without any scraping marks. So I can now go in with the fine sandpaper. I can still see it a little bit. If you're using sanding paper or sponges or a file, again, the problem you have there is you want to maintain the curve and you're having to do this all the time. So using a removal tool or your knife blade is probably the easiest way to keep that curve. And you can see here I'm rotating the wheel as I'm sanding it. That's how I'm maintaining the curve. You can go like that, or you can rotate the wheel. Same thing. It's only a fine sandpaper anyway, just to get rid of any scrapes and scratches. There we go. So that's looking much better. There's no mould line on there. It's not perfectly smooth. Doesn't matter, because what I can do now is I can start to add some life to this. Like I said before, these parts of the wheels, it's just a big rubber tyre. So what I can start to do is start to take some little dings and notches out of this rubber tyre. Make it look a bit more realistic. Not many, just a few here and there. Just to make it look like it's seen some action, you know. It's driven over a pointy thing. So there's a big notch there, you see. And just do a few of them here and there on wheels. Which wheel is which? This is the... That's the front, I think, isn't it? That's the front of it. I'm not going to bother on the back wheels because you're not going to see them so easily. But just to give you the idea, you can do this on the front-facing wheels. Just cut little notches out, and then I'll go in with a little bit of a sandpaper or sponge, and I'll just tidy it up a little bit. And just on that front-facing side, it just adds a little bit of something to it. So you've got now little notches. You can't really see on the plastic, but when you've got that primed and painted, you'll see little dings and notches cut out. I'll make one quite big. Let's make this one quite big. You've got to be careful when you're doing this. Again, if you can, try and cut away from yourself. Just cut a little V-shaped notch, and then if you want to, you can go in with a file. Where's my file? And just reinforce those edges, and it just looks like something's come along and taken a chunk out of that. I think something's just been delivered downstairs. And so you can't really see it on the bare plastic, but once you get some paint and everything else on there, you'll see that nicely. A big chunk of the solid rubber tie been taken out. So that's that one. A dirty tank. Is there any other kind of tank? Second best part of any kit is the wheels, says Carl. Unless, like me, you hate doing wheels. Yeah, because they're kind of boring. So this is where I need you guys to ask me lots of things in chat. Now I know it says no... I'm going to turn the viewer count off. It says no viewers up there in the top, but that's because I'm not logged into my streaming software as eModels. So I'll take that off. There's not no people watching, it's just... There's nobody watching this on my channel because it's not on my channel. Yeah. Okay, so get this one done. So this is the boring bit now. So feel free to ask me any questions you wish. Many questions must be placed towards me because we're going to be here for a little while I do these wheels. I'm going to use my knife to get rid of this nub, just for speed. Once this is done though, this is the most tedious part of the process. Once this is done, we're fine and dandy then. I can still feel that nub. So there's still something there. Again, it doesn't really matter if I take a chunk out on these because, again, I am putting some little bits of damage into these anyway, and they do take wear and tear in real life. I just want to make sure they stay round. Now, when I was a young shaver of a lad, all I had was a collection of slightly stolen from the mother nail file boards, you know, a little piece of card with some sandpaper on it that used to file the nail. That's all I had. And little tiny metal nail files that came with nail clippers, that thing. That's all I had when I was a kid to play with. So I did my best. Apart from when I got to this, you know, this kit, and my dad bought me all the sanding sticks and stuff, but proper files. But even though once they became useless, I just depended on whatever I could find. Got a sewing kit for Christmas. Brilliant. There's probably a file in there. I'll have that. Thank you very much. So, yeah, don't be afraid to use household items. There's a lot of household things you can find that are very useful to the model maker. I'm going to use this stick because it's a bit more heavy duty and faster. A lot of useful household things. La 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 la. At a pinch. I'm not going to take lots and lots of chunks out of all the wheels. I don't want to do everything. If you do, one thing humans aren't very good at is making things look random. We're not good at randomizing things. So it's very easy to get into the habit of putting damage on these wheels and then doing too much and it just looks rubbish, or it looks really regular. Every wheel's got the same amount of damage. No. One other handy tip, by the way, if you get a fluffy plastic left behind and you can't clean it out, if you get some extra thin, get most of it off. We get it on camera. Get most of the extra thin off the brush. You've got almost nothing on there, and then just run it over the bit you've just cut out. Because it melts the plastic, it's a welding cement, it will just soften any fluffy edges and smooth any little, any sort of grindy knife marks. So here, for example, where it looks a bit, it's not brilliant, we can just run the moist brush over the bit, and it now looks like a chunk of rubber's been taken out, but it's not got fluffy plastic sticking up. There you go. So make sure to do that as well. You don't want, you literally want the brush to be damp, not dripping with glue. So we'll come back and do more of that. And when we've done all the rest of the wheels, I'll put those there. Whenever you've done any kind of carving like that, or if you've drilled a barrel out of a gun or drilled holes into plastic, sometimes you get that fluffy nonsense that's left behind. A little bit of extra thin is a great way to clean up. Also, if you know, make a light bit of scratch with a knife blade or something, it's a bit scratchy on the surface, just run a damp extra thin brush over it, and again it will soften, it'll just melt away in little fluffy sticky up bits, and you'll have a much better looking bit of plastic. That's not what I wanted this, didn't I? Silly boy. I've actually never made a tank myself, says Donald Mackenzie. Never have helped Mike. I'll start that again. There are 18 watching at the moment, says Carl. Hey, thank you, Carl. Hello to all 18 watching. If you are watching this, do come and join the live chat. You can join the live chat by right-clicking on the YouTube icon in the bottom right and select open a new tab if you're on a desktop. And it'll take you to YouTube where you can carry on watching and join the live chat. If you're on a mobile device, the chat might be underneath the video player, so just scroll down a bit. But if you are watching on the eModels website, make sure to keep the eModels website open, because you never know, you might suddenly decide you want to pick something up. And you've got the website right there and then. Now, apologies if you get lots of booming noises while I'm doing this. I'm resting on the bench, and of course the microphone is attached to the bench indirectly, so it might be a bit noisy. This is not, I should have really, you know what, I should have really pre-done all these, shouldn't I? This is not the exciting part of the process. But hey, what can you do? Anyway, yes, actually, I'll say, Donald Mackenzie says, actually, I've never made a tank myself. I've helped my dad years ago with loads, but never myself. I must rectify this anomaly. Well, that's what I was saying at the start, Donald. If you've never done armour before, if you're not sure if you want to do armour, I mean, if you've helped your dad before, you'll know if you want to do them or not. But if you're the kind of modeller who you've built lots of other things, for example, let's say you're a Gumpler builder, or you like your Warhammers, or you make model railways, or something like that, you've got your particular favourite genre, and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I fancy doing a tank. I've never done a tank or a World War II truck or something like that, and you've never done one before. These Tamiya kits are a brilliant, perfect way to try that out. I would never recommend that somebody thinks to themselves, I've spent the last 30 years making sports cars. I'm going to go and spend £120 on a big Riffield tank with 8,000 parts and 1,500 pieces of photo etch and 5,000 individual track parts. No, because they're going to be daunted, and they're going to be like, ah! And the first thing they're going to do is panic when they see like 17 sprues of just track parts. So I would say, before you get to that point, which you do want to get to that point eventually, but before you get to that point, get yourself one of these. They're like 15, 20 quid. They're super straightforward to build, and they'll just give you a feel for the basics of like, you know, vehicle or armour construction. Obviously with modern kits, you tend a lot more to get individual link tracks where you actually physically build the tracks from the ground up, link by link. I haven't got the patience for that, but they look fantastic because they hang properly, and they, oop, not the camera, they weight down on the wheels properly like big heavy steel tracks would do, and we're gonna try and simulate that when we get round to it. Need to clean that a bit more. I forgot to sand those cuts. But yeah, if you're just thinking about it, if you've never done one, these are perfect little introductory things, because they just give you a feel for the genre without, you know, breaking the bank. And then if you think you like it, that's when you can start looking at the more modern kits. Because these Tamiya kits, these are 40, 45 years old. This was 1979, like it said on the sprue. But yeah, they certainly give even modern tanks a run for their money. There are modern manufacturers whose tanks aren't even this good a quality, and this is 45 years old. So, yeah, I'm not going to mention names. They knew who they are. Morning people, says Sean Wiles. Just started watching and I've heard fluffy and moist, all is good with the world. There you go. Yeah, moist. I can't get up in the microphone because it's not right where my face is, but moist. Hey Fox, I'm doing the decals on the Bandai Millennium Falcon. Did it take you forever and a half? Because my god, this is slow going. Yes, because there's approximately 12 billion of them. But it's very relaxing, it's fun. Enjoy the process. Enjoy it, it's fun. You don't have to be quite so stringent with the microset and microsol and little tiny flavour decals, but yes. It's a slow process. But enjoy it. Get yourself a couple of podcasts to listen to, or have this on in the background, however you prefer. Just make sure you've got some stuff to listen to while you work. You'll get there. Yes, the big Bandai Millennium Falcon. Can take a while with them decals, but it's the only option you've got for like accurate decals on a Millennium Falcon, if you can get the one with water slide decals. Because most Falcons, they either come with nothing. I'm going to put 2 on that one. They either come with nothing or they come with just the coloured panels. The Bandai water slide, the Bandai version, the limited edition with all the water slide decals, has decals for all the markings, and I mean literally all of them. Every single little marking that was on the studio miniature is on there. And it's funny because they used a lot of like decals from existing kits and other things and bits and bobs, and you can kind of identify them. You can look at the Falcon markings and be like, well, that's an airplane instrument panel. Oh, look, there's half a Tamiya logo. That got used quite a lot. All these wonderful things you can see in the markings. And they've reproduced them so faithfully you can actually identify them. Like I say, I can guarantee you in there you'll see an instrument panel. You'll see they've actually reproduced the thing that says, "Can I house my driving?" The one that goes on the back. You can see some, rally race car type manufacturer logos. Like I don't think there's a Sparco spark plugs, but there might be one. You can see there is literally the half Tamiya logo. So the the red and blue star, half that logo is there. It's great. You can see all kinds of things. Route markers, interstate route markers, things like that. The decal that goes above the cockpit, I think, is an interstate decal, an interstate route marker, I think. Mixed with some other bits, obviously. There's all kinds of little warning markings from aircraft kits and things like that. It's quite fascinating. Quite clever the way they did it. That's why when I do a model kit, I like to put all kinds of decals on it. I built a Bane blade, a Warhammer Bane blade, and I put Gundam warning markings on it just to give it a little bit of flavour, little bits of text on panels that you can't quite read. You can if you look through a magnifying lens. Little warning things and chevrons and stuff from like Gunpla kits, just to give it some flavour. I'll do this one. I won't put any nicks into that one. I'll keep that one nice and clean. Maybe it's a recently installed wheel. I'll have to clear this dust up in a minute. How many tank bits are on the Millennium Falcon, Fox? Asks Angus. All of them. Millions of them. Thousands. Lots of Panzer IVs. Lots of Tiger. Lots of Tamiya Panzer IVs and Tigers. I don't know if there are any T62 parts. There might be. There might be a T62 part on there somewhere. Oh, not on, well, then again, not on the New Hope one, because that was 1977. This is 79. But there's lots of like Stug, Tiger, King Tiger. There's whole back panels of, I think, a Tiger tank near the exhausts on the back. You see that 2 or 3 times. Lots of tank jacks, things like that. Loads of them. Hey Fox, oh no, or is this only tank question? No, this you can ask questions about anything. It doesn't even have to be model making. No religion, no politics, but other than that, and keep it family friendly. Dorkosaurus is in. Well, hello Fox, Fox Hub. I hope everyone in Chatland is doing good. Welcome Dorkosaurus. Hugs back. Am I actually on camera? Oh, I'm vaguely on camera. I'm kind of working there and my centre point's here. I'll move my chair, that might help. I'm afraid this is the tedious wheel part where I've got to clean up the wheels. There. This is the boring bit. Now I'll need to clean up this dust in a second before I start inhaling plastic dust for a living. Now I would recommend, ideally for safety, when you're doing this part of the build, just because you are building up a big pile of plastic dust, I would recommend you just wear a dust mask for this bit. I don't normally wear a dust mask when I'm working with plastic, but for this particular part, just because there's so much of it building up, and you've got so many wheels to do, I would recommend for this. I can't do it now because I'm doing a live stream and I need to be able to talk to you. But for your own safety at home, while you're doing this part, just wear yourself a little dust mask. Any old dust mask will do. Doesn't have to be a full-on respirator. Big swig of tea. Normally when you're doing assembly, you've got a little tiny bit of sanding here and there, but this is just intense, constant sanding, so... where are we? B3 says, the Falcon has to be my favourite collection of Greebles other than the Nostromo. The guys that built those models leave me in awe. Carl is heading home. Catch you later. Take care, Carl. Thanks for coming in. Where are we up to? What time are we on? 12 o'clock. Well, we've got a while to go yet. That's not the thing I wanted. I didn't plan ahead. I forgot the wheels are the tedious bit and take a while. Now, I don't imagine that we'll be doing a lot of episodes where we're doing this. I can't imagine this taking too long to build. But I will be filming the painting properly. I'll do proper filming, painting videos. Now, I am tailoring this towards beginners, but I will be doing some airbrushy bits, like, you know, the priming and the base colour. Or maybe the base colour. So, I'll be a slight wobble away from the absolute beginner level of tutorial. Now, almost everything I'm using here today, and that I'll use in the build and painting, is available at eModels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for your model making needs. Either available or will be available if it's not in stock right now. Or if not the specific thing, like, you know, this mould line removal tool, there'll be something equally as good, similar. But if you're looking for something and you can't find it, just give the guys a call or drop them an email, and they'll be happy to help you out. We always say though, if you can't find it, you don't need it. Like, if you can't find a thing and there's no equivalent other thing, you probably can do something else. You don't need that specific thing then, do you? Really. There'll be something equally as good that you can use instead. But if you can't find something, it just means it's either out of stock temporarily. You know, they're just sold out, because things don't show up on the website when they're sold out. Either it'll be out of stock temporarily, or it's something they don't carry, but they can probably get for you anyway. So don't worry too much. If you can't find something, and you can't find anything that's equally as good, just drop them a line, give them a call. The guys will be happy to help you out. They are, of course, you may not realise this, but eModels are the UK's largest, #1 leading Tamiya stockist. I need to sand that. I forgot to sand that, didn't I? There's two I've got to do now. Where's the other one? There's another one that I forgot to sand first, and it's got a fluffiness. Wer ist? On that one. That one's alright. That's fine. There's one that I forgot to sand before I... No, I can't find it now. Never mind, I've got to sand that one anyway. What was I talking about? I've got no idea. Forgotten already. I don't even listen to myself. I can confirm there's quazillions of these things. Fox, what's the favourite model you've ever built? Asks Gemma. Well, I enjoy every model I build until I've built it and then it no longer interests me and it's boring. But I'd say, I'll answer it in a different way and say, what's the model I miss the most? Is my Eagle Transporter that I built 3 models. I know that's my favourite because I miss it terribly. I have to give it back because it's an eModels build. I have to give it back, of course. And I miss it terribly because it's awesome. It's a 2.5, 3 foot long Eagle Transporter. What's not to love? So I miss that. I think I'd say that probably. But every model's my favourite when I'm building it. But like most people, as soon as it's finished, I've moved on to the next thing. It's forgotten about. It's rare that a model sticks in my memory. I've got models in the cabinet downstairs that I haven't even looked at. I was passionate about when I was doing them, and then the moment they go in the cabinet, they may as well not exist. Because you move on to the next thing, and you don't go back and look at your own stuff, really. So, yeah, that Eagle Transporter was fabulous. Partly because it was fun and it was a great build, partly because I had so much fun doing the silly videos. But yeah, just partly because I miss it, and it's kind of something impressive that sits in your cabinet and goes, whoa! It doesn't actually make that noise. I'll do a big, massive chunk on this one. Now remember, you don't have to do this taking chunks out of the road wheels nonsense. Oh, there we go. Is that Stabity? Oh yeah, look, yay! Stabity. It's not one of my streams if I don't do Stabity. So, you know, you don't have to take these chunks out. Be careful when you're using knives, folks. Woo! There we go. You don't have to do this bit, but it does help. It's just a little bit of extra added awesomeness. Now, thankfully, that is a bit I could put a plaster on. If I had a plaster available. No. There's that taste of blood that I get so often because I'm so useless and stab myself all the time. Don't be like me, folks. Don't be special. Be careful with knives. There we go. There. Doesn't hurt. It's just going to annoy me now by bleeding for like 20 minutes. I don't think we have any plasters. No, I don't think we do. It's only a little tiny, it doesn't hurt you, it's only a little tiny Stabity. There you go, Steve. You just managed to, I hope you saw that before you went to work. Paul Ditter says, Route 1 and small enough that you could stick it to a gnat's eyeball. Route 1, Paul Ditter. Paul Ditter. Oh, Route 1. Oh, we're talking about the interstate marker on the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. Aye. I'm surprised the chat hasn't erupted into comments about me and being stabbited. Wrap a bit of Tamiya tape around it, says Angus. It's a waste of tape. That's a waste of jolly good tape. I could go and get a plaster, but they're downstairs, and that's taking me away from the bench. It's just that I've got to push down with that finger now, so it's going to keep bleeding because I'm pushing down with it. Oh no, I need to... Can I get rid of those little nubs? Satisfactorily... No, I didn't, did I? That one there. And that one there. So yes, if you're a younger builder, or if like me you're a complete idiot, then do be careful with knives. This thing can't stab me, this thing's not even sharp. On camera, dear, where's the centre? There's the centre mark again. There it is. There we go. So, anyway, the question I've not asked anybody yet, of course, the most important question of any live stream that I ever do is, of course, bench and belly. I think I'm going to have to go and get a plaster because I'm going to get... Yeah, tell you what I'm going to do. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to go and grab a plaster just to so I don't cover the whole model in blood. I shall be back in 1 moment. Give me 1 moment. After all that, we've got one single plaster in the entire house. Fantastic. Now that's a first aid kit. In this house where I stabbed myself, we've got one plaster. Brilliant. Well done, Foxx. One plaster. It's not even a decent shaped one. It's a rubbish one that'll come off in about 5 minutes. But, hey. Get this on. There we go. That'll be off in about 5 minutes because it's clearly a rubbishy old one. There we go. R.R. Belida says, put CA glue on it, that wound. Don't know why, I've seen it somewhere. That's a yes and a no situation. Cyanoacrylate glue, CA glue, it's a terrible pluck of that, was originally designed as a quick way to heal wounds on the battlefield. So there is some merit to simply putting a bit of CA glue on a wound to heal it, to quickly, close the wound so it doesn't bleed. However, there is a difference between normal CA glue that you and I would use in a model kit and medical grade CA glue that's designed to break down in the body specifically. You can use CA glue to close a wound and you'll probably be absolutely fine, but if it's bog standard industrial grade adhesive gluing two things together CA glue, there's the tiny microscopic risk that a little sliver of it can break off and enter your bloodstream, and that's a bad thing. So I would suggest, if you do injure yourself, don't put CA glue in it. Unless it's medical grade CA glue and you know that for sure, it's not worth the risk. It's probably highly unlikely that anything bad will happen and you'll probably be absolutely fine. But just to be safe, I don't do it, just because you don't want bits of shards of CA glue breaking off and entering your bloodstream. I'm sure it's never done anything bad to anybody, but yes, as a responsible personage in the media, I can't recommend such a thing. Unless it's medical grade, cyanoacrylate. I assume that's still a thing, I don't know. It might not be. Tidy up these bits. I'll probably have some tidy up to do on these once the glue's dried and evaporated away. Just a little bit of sanding just to smooth them off. But these will be weathered, although being the road wheels are not going to be covered in mud and dirt. My logic is that the underside of the tank will be covered in dirt and mud. The wheels will be discoloured with dirt and mud, but they won't be caked in mud because they're constantly in motion. The side walls of the tank belly aren't constantly rotating and spinning, so they get covered in mud and it cakes on. But on the wheels, they have dust, but they wouldn't necessarily be dripping in mud unless it's been parked in mud for a few hours and not moved. My aesthetic is they'd be dirty but not caked. Paul Ditter says, I can confirm eModels are super helpful and friendly. Just think twice before going into the premises. You will spend more than you intended. Yes, where's my centre points? There. My camera, doesn't know my camera's moved. There we go. There we go. Belly spaghetti. Oh, I didn't ask the question, did I? I was about to ask the question, bench and belly. What's on your bench? So what you're working on right now, if anything. Doesn't have to be a model kit. It can be a arty crafty thing of any kind. What's on your bench and what's in your belly? What have you had for your dinner? Or what are you going to have for your dinner? Bench for me is this, and belly is nothing yet apart from a cup of tea, because it's not even lunchtime yet. Oh God! Now I hate to tell you, but we've done all these wheels, and this is half of them. We've got the other half to do yet. Yeah, but we're not going to be doing all the little dings and damage on the other wheels. They'll just get cleaned up because they're the rear one, the ones that go at the back, so we don't really see them that much. Belly, I don't know, later on today. Whatever we have for dinner, I do not know. Need to do some shopping though. Need to get the old Morrison's Amazon food basket thing order coming in. I'll leave that one as it is. There we go. Not going to put damage on every wheel. Now that's all those ones done. I'll just give this a quick fuss with the sander just to get rid of any fluffy, sticky up, hairy bits. You don't want hairy bits on your tank wheels. Or little bits of plastic sticking up. There we go, thank you very much. Doodle-doodle-doodle-doo. I want to see chunks taken out of the rubber, not things sticking up. There we go. That's a bit better. I have damaged my tank wheels, like and subscribe. Yeah, so my plan is that I will do proper filming of the painting of this model. But for the building, I'll just do a few more, however many live streams it takes in the coming days, just to get the build part done. Because there's not really that much of a teaching moment in the building part. I mean, the build part is the bit the instructions tell you how to do anyway, so unless there was something particularly tricky that the instructions wouldn't explain, then, you know, it's not really worth doing a dedicated video for it. I'm just duplicating instructions. I mean, I will show some techniques on these streams. I'll show how to fill gaps and stuff with sprue glue and things like that, but for the most part, yeah, you don't need it. But painting, that's where the instructions just say paint it, and then you're left to yourself, to your own devices. Excuse me. Let's get all the nubs off first. We'll do this in order now, because we're just doing clean up now. Beep, 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 beep. I shall have a look at chat in a second, because I asked you bench and belly. I will include these live streams in the archive for the playlist of this project though. So if somebody wants to watch the build process, they can watch the live streams. I think what can we talk about? What can we talk about? Give me things to talk about in chat. Inspire me. Did I pick up the wrong wheel there? I don't know. Do you realise it's like 40 years since I last touched these wheels on a T62? The weird thing is that 40 years ago I would have been sat just over there, facing 90 degrees from where I am now. I would have been sat the other way, facing the window, building on my desk that had a drawing board on it and a telly and stuff. When I was a kid. Now I'm a grown man. I know no better. So it's weird. 40 years later, I'm building the same kit, and I've moved about a foot. Weird, isn't it? How these things come around. 40 years ago, I'm sat there, freshly minted, almost a teenager. I would never have imagined 40 years in the future you'll be sat here doing exactly what you're doing, making exactly this kit in 40 years time. I'd be like, what? Get out of here. I ain't not getting on a plane, fool. No? Weird, isn't it? Weird, weird, weird. So yeah, when I originally did this, like I say, it would have been, I would have still assembled it slapdash with the Humbrol poly, because that's the glue I had. A couple of bottles of Humbrol poly, please. I'd moved off from tube glue, but it's not a brush the size of a yard brush to apply the glue. So it would have been a couple of bottles of Humbrol poly. I would have assembled it. I think I probably, at that point, I was probably cutting things off sprue with a knife, like on the bench, like that, which is not recommended because it does all kinds of damage. And then the painting would have literally been, I think I would have, in fact, confess to you now, I probably would have painted it on the sprue. I know. I can't remember, but I wouldn't be surprised if I painted it all on the sprue and then assembled it. It wouldn't surprise me. I didn't know. There was no internet in them days to look these things up. I had a couple of how to make models books, but they didn't cover things like that. I can't remember though. I can't remember. I know for some I did. And then assemble it, you know. Oh, painting on the sprue. Oh, God. Heaven forbid. If I did that now, every time I paint, every piece I paint on the sprue, a kitten dies. It's just not natural. It's not natural. So, but yeah, my painting process would have been literally Tamiya paint of the right colour, or whatever colour the instructions said. What colour does it say? Painting. Where are we? Painting. Painting. Dark green. That would have been it. Dark green. Tamiya dark green. So I would have got a pot of Tamiya dark green, and I would have brushed that on with a really bad brush. I probably had a collection of about 5 brushes. Not having any understanding of brushes or different types or shapes or what they were, just 5 brushes that look like brushes. What we would probably now call like a layer brush, or a, I think they probably looked a bit like Citadel shade brushes. That's the kind of brushes I had for everything. I just got the paint, stirred it, stuck it on the bare plastic. I didn't know. And I have to say, it came out all right. I still have, from my younger modelling days, I still have 3 models. One is the SAS Jeep, 135th SAS Tamiya Jeep, with the desert wrap dudes in the khakis and the headscarves. And one is from a German figures set. They're the ones you get in the German field kitchen, but I never had the field kitchen, I just had the figures, so I assume it was a separate set. One is eating some soup from a canteen, from a thingy can, and one is one is carrying a loaf of bread. I've got those 2 Wehrmacht figures painted, and they were straight on the plastic, and they still look, you know, they don't look fine, they look all right. I was like 14 or 15, and I have to say, I obviously had some adventurous spirit when I was that young, because the 2 little German soldiers, I actually got plastic card and made little straps for the helmets. I know. In them days, you see, I actually had decent eyesight. I could see things. I know, and I remember being that young. I actually, even at one point, got a couple of American GIs and converted them using Milliput to be a couple of like animal characters, because I used to draw animals and stuff. So I got these 2 American soldiers and made them into, like, gave them pointy ears and muzzles and tails and stuff, and sculpted these. I'm like, I couldn't do that now. I couldn't even sculpt a ball of Milliput out of Milliput. And yet here's me in my younger days giving a dude a tail and pointy ears and a muzzle and making him look like a fox. I'm like, what? I think they're long gone, those figures though. Don't know what happened to those. See, I've got a few of my Tamiya stuff, but yeah, anyway, so that was the thing, I'd paint them. And I remember the guy that comes with this tank was the first figure I ever painted, because this was the first model I ever properly made and painted. So I remember painting up the tank driver in this, or the figure that comes with it, and taking him to school in a matchbox to show my friends. I remember sitting on the top deck of the bus on the way to school, front seat, and saying, look at this, look what I did this weekend, look at this, isn't it brilliant? And it was like, wow, that's amazing. It was like, I was dead proud of it. But literally, I just followed the painting instructions, so it was like, the skin was flat flesh, the uniform and outfit was kind of a dark grey colour, and there was probably some red brown for a leather strap or something, I don't know. And then I don't remember if I tried to paint the eyes. I probably did, and they were probably god awful. I have no idea, I can't remember now. Sadly, the model is long gone. They were probably, it was probably, if in reality it was probably terrible, but in my memory at the time it was brilliant, because I was like, I made this, I painted this, it's a human figure, it looks like a real person. It didn't look like a real person. But I got quite good at painting, you know, because I gave up the hobby when I was about 16 or 17, I think, 17 or 18, and kind of fell out of it for a while, and then kind of got back into it a little bit again. And throughout the 90s, I did bits and bobs, but the 90s I got mired in Star Trek ships, AMT and Revell kit, AMT and NPC kits, and that was not a good experience. But I think I got quite good at painting. But then I stopped for 20 years, and then my eyesight got worse, and I got old. And now I'm getting back into it again over the last 6 or 7 years. And I would say I've lost my adventurousness. I think in a lot of things, I don't know if it's the same for everybody else, but in a lot of things, creative things that I used to do when I was younger, I've become less adventurous now. You know, when I was younger, I used to draw loads of... I could sit there and just doodle and draw and create things like no problem. I wouldn't be a slave to anything other than just creativity. And I could write tunes and record music that I just sit there at the keyboard at the synth and just turn the 8-track recorder on and turn the mixer on and just start recording. But as I got older, that kind of ingenuity, that kind of inventiveness, that kind of freedom to just create faded away and became a bit stead in the end. And I got less adventurous, to the point now where I've only just started doing little bits of custom making bits of plastic card, and that's just to add straps and panels and things. It's not anything interesting. I'm not going to be scratch building things anytime soon. Maybe in my youth I would have done, but not now. Hell, I remember making a German half-track vehicle and making a folded up flag to put on the bonnet out of post-it notes or something, little bits of paper that were like telephone notepad pages, just to make a folded up flag on a bonnet of a vehicle. Them were the days. I think as we get older, some of us, we lose our imaginative streak. Some of us we don't. Like you look at Colin over at T-67's workshop with his scratch building stuff, his modification. He'll happily get out the Tamiya model saw and cut things around, no problem. But the other thing is, of course, I can't see as well as I used to now. When I was younger, I could see things. Now I need magnifying lenses and all sorts to see anything, because we're all old now. Now, I do apologise if all you're hearing is thumping noises every time I'm doing this, because as I said, the microphone is attached to the bench. Sadly, there's nowhere else I can put the microphone that isn't directly attached to this bench. So every time I move something around and drop it, it thumps, so I do apologise. Digger Evans says, I've got to go. Bye, Fox. Bye, everyone. Thank you for coming in, Digger. I'll have a look at the chat in a second. We've only got 5 of these wheels left to do. I'm doing these quicker because I'm not putting damage on them. I'm just... because these are the wheels at the back, you can't see them as well, so we can skip past that step, I think. Swig of tea. Angus Allett says, belly spaghetti bolognese with lots of Parmesan cheese. A bench Edward Night Fighter biplane. Cool. It's a fine looking build, says Paul, about my Eagle. Do you want me to steal it next time I'm at the shop? Yes, please. Try and stick it in your trouser pocket. Donald McKenzie says, belly toast, bench, a Revell Razor Crest and also a Bandai Razor Crest. Ooh. Ara Belida says, belly is coffee, bench, Tacom G6 Rhino, done lower hull 3 camo schemes. Is that the big, long, massive thing that looks like some kind of Warhammer 40k thing? That's kind of crazy. Strom rises in. Welcome, Strom. He says, US half-ton 6x6 cargo truck is on my bench. Welcome, welcome. Gemma says, belly is brown rice cakes and fruit. I'm not doing any puzzles at the moment, so bench is empty. Chris is back from the food shop, so I'm off to watch TV with him. Take care, everyone, says Gemma. Take care, Gemma. Thank you for coming in. Model making pro tip, says Angus Allett. He also, well, I'll say it properly. Model making pro tip.
Slap it on.
There you go. I have to go on, I can't press a button anymore. I have to go and click the mouse, so it takes me a second to line up the shot. Cup of time, says Paul Ditter. Belly, bacon, sarnie, bench, falcon. Have you got any advice for figure painting? I suck at it, says Paul Ditter. Yeah, don't suck at it. Yeah, that's a sarcastic response. I've only been doing figure painting for a few years. I'm learning slowly by doing my Warhammers. And I'm not in any place to give advice really, because I'm not that good at it. But I would just say it's all about using a wet palette. Sounds really obvious. Thinning your paints, and making sure you use layering and washes to get that depth. There's nothing worse than, you know, you see a figure and the face has just been painted a flesh colour and that's it. Like me with my figure when I was a kid. Just applying a layer of skin colour paint to a face doesn't make it painted. It's just, you want to give it depth, and that's where, you know, your washes or shades and your layering and your contrast between lights and darks comes in. But it depends what you want to go for. I mean, you know, if you want to go for photorealistic, I have no idea, because if you want to go for miniature tabletop style, then that's a bit better. Depends what scale as well. Don't forget, you know, if you're like for your little 1/72 scale Millennium Falcon crew, you don't have to worry about making, you know, 32 different layers of colour on the face for them, because they're tiny. That's where you can just get away with a flesh tone and then a wash of some sort, because they're small. Like for that Falcon crew, you could do like a basic flesh tone and then a brown wash, and then either go back with the flesh tone just on the highlighty points with a really fine brush, just like the tip of the nose, you know, bridge of the nose, the eyebrows, just to make them pop out if you can get there. Or even then, if you can't even get that done, then if it's just flesh colour and a wash, that's fine on such tiny figures. If you mean bigger figures, this plaster's rubbish. This is already coming off, look. Tell you what. I mean, you can learn a lot from people that paint tabletop miniatures. I mean, they're not going to give you super realistic. Plaster's not coming off now. But they give you an idea for basic layering and washing and stuff. Oh, 1 second, folks. That's the front doorbell. 1 second. Sorry about that. Was just a delivery. Yes, figure painter. I'm not the person to advise, because I'm not the expert at it, to be honest. I would just say go and watch lots of YouTube videos. There's a lot to be learned from simple, like, miniature tabletop painting figure techniques, if you're not looking to paint super realistic figures straight away. Even stuff like, you know, watching like Duncan paint things on Warhammer TV's channel and things. Just basic techniques that will at least introduce you to the basics of, you know, different contrasty colour layers and things like that. Painting realistically, like for this, it's more of a challenge. I can't do eyes. I've not really decided what I'm going to do with the figure for this. It may have a tabletop look to it, I'm afraid, because that's what I do. We'll see. What's chat doing? Belly meatballs and rice bench is empty with a Jupiter in front of it, says Frankie. Oh, yeah, he's got his new synthesizer. Oh, very nice. Chance to be a fine thing. Nearly done with wheels. I'm always jealous of anyone with a bacon sarnie, says Angus Allen. Absolutely. Might have to make bacon butties for tea tonight, maybe. Get the bacon defrosted. Oh, yes. Thinking about bacon now. It's a good thing to think about. Yes, I'm being a bit faster with these wheels because they are the wheels that go behind. So, given the fact that the rubber tyre is going to be black anyway, or very dark grey, and these are at the back, you've got a certain bit of leeway. Of course, if you're making a full-on display model or competition model, you wouldn't cut these corners. You'd make every wheel a perfect wheel. But of course, you wouldn't be live streaming this part of the process either, would you? So there you go. So what we'll do, we'll get these wheels done and assembled, and then probably call it a show then for today, I think. Or maybe we'll keep going a little bit. We'll see what the next step is. I don't know what the next step is yet. We shall see. Step 2, build the rest of the tank. Done. Yeah, so the trick with figure painting, I don't really, I'm not experienced enough to say this is how you paint a figure, because there's so many different ways of doing it. The trick is really with any kind of painting of anything that's smaller than real is some exaggeration in places to give contrast, and that's the trick. You know, unless you're one of these like crazy Japanese model makers that can take a grain of rice and turn it into a fully working aircraft carrier, which is, you know, it wouldn't surprise me. You can be content with a good level of slight fakery. So, for example, if I wear, you know, my shirt is a green shirt, it's not different colours of green, it's just one colour of green. If I stand in front of you with the shirt on, it's just a green shirt, it's one colour. So, you know, you could paint it on a model of me, you'd paint it one colour. But when it's in real life, of course, you've got different shadow and light casting on it, you've got light from other objects reflecting over it, you've got bounce lighting from around the room and from my other clothing and from my face and things like that, giving different colours. You've always got all that light reflecting. On a miniature version of something, if you just paint it green, it just looks like you've painted it green. The neatest paint job in the world, you've just painted it green. There's no illusion of depth there. So it's about creating fake contrast and depth, really. It's like if you took even the best painted model figure in the world and scaled it up to full size, it would look really weird because of all the faked shadow and light and depth and colour variation. But when you view it at the correct size, the size it was designed at, like one scale, whatever it is, 1/24th, 1/35th, 1/48th, it looks fine because you're seeing it from a distance away and it's tiny. So it's about not just painting things a flat colour, but adding that depth, and whether that's through doing, you know, a quick wash of some sort, like a wash to put depth into the recesses, and then bringing it back by bringing back the original base colours on the raised parts, and then adding a highlight on top of that in the smaller areas. That's one way of doing it. Whether it's, you know, using oil paints to get real complex varied skin tones and things like that, and clothing creases and stuff, again to give contrast. That's another way. Depends on the scale of the figure. You know, you wouldn't start painting all the face of a tabletop miniature with oil paints to get realistic tones and blends. but you would do on, say, a 1/6 scale figure because it's a lot bigger and you can get away with it and it looks better. That's not very good. I haven't done that properly, have I? But figure painting is an art in and of itself, so as a starting point, I would say, you know, the tabletop miniature painter's way of doing little tiny figures is a good starting point because it's a good introduction to contrasting shade and light and stuff, and a simple way of doing it to trick the eye. I mean, I've always had the view that, I mean, I can't paint eyes for toffee. I haven't got the eyesight and the manual control to paint eyes without them looking stupid. So more often than not, I just don't bother. And you might think, well, you know, how can you not paint someone's eyes? People have eyes in their head. And the thing is, yeah, they do, but this is a small figure that's going to be 2 or 3 feet away from you. And if you go and look at a photograph of, let's say you're building like this tank, if you were to go and find a photograph of the guy standing in the turret of this tank, or any, you know, you look at any sort of World War II photograph and there's like a guy in a tank, or there's a guy stood there, a soldier standing there on the beach, whenever it is, how often have you looked at a photograph of someone and you don't see eyes, you just see the shadow where the eye is, you see the shadow where the brow covers over the eye area, and often it's an artifact of, you know, the photograph. The person might be moving, it might be a really terrible camera, but more often than not, even nowadays, you know, you take a photograph of someone a few feet away, you might not necessarily see the eyes unless it's brightly lit and the sun's in the right place. Sometimes you just see the shadow of the eye area, or you see a hint of that makes you realise it's an eye. So sometimes just, you know, a bit of a brown wash or a darker wash in the eye socket can convincingly make you think there's eyes there when there isn't. Panzer Cat's in, morning all, says Panzer Cat. Angus Allett, mid placemat dropped. Angus Allett puts lots of pictures of bacon. Bacon. Ooh, bacon butty, says Angus. Yes, bacon butty is always the correct answer. Right, so I made a right mess mid bench. Got bits of powder everywhere. I keep meaning to get myself one of them little tiny bench hoovers, but I keep forgetting. You know, little bench vacuums. Colin's got one, it just... I keep meaning to get one and I keep forgetting. Right, so... we've got their wheels. They're all cleaned up and sorted now. We've got the front parts and the back parts. So we need 10 polycaps. Polycaps! And then we need to make them. So let's get 10 polycaps off the sprue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get more than you need, I suspect. 1. Oops, counting's hard. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oops, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can do counting. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. What I can't do is do it on camera. Idiot. Now I'm gonna very quickly clean up the little nubs on these. You don't have to, but I may as well, just for the sake of cleanness. Again, if you're not, unless you're putting a motor into this, you don't need to worry about the poly. And the thing is, the polycaps don't even need to rotate anyway. But it does mean that the wheels go together, and I've got my plasters getting in the way now. It does mean the wheel goes together properly. A little bit of nub sticking out might stop the two halves of the wheel going together correctly. A little bit. So it's always worth just getting rid of the nubs. If you can pick them up with a dirty great big plaster on your finger. Oh, such an idiot. I am Foxx. I will stab myself regularly. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Honestly, this last couple of weeks I've just been so much stabbity. I don't know why. It's just more... After months and months of not injuring myself at the workbench at all. I mean, I'm known as Captain Stabty for a reason, but I've had a really good long run. There was a little thing on the wall saying, this bench has been a stab-free zone for, you know, now it says 0 days, but hey, what can you do? Angus, I am truly sorry, but sausage joined the bacon. The bacon was lonely. Sausage is always good. Frankie's getting better with his back pain. I'm glad it's getting better for you. Fox, you had better things to buy, like the Squigoth, says Panzer. Yeah, there is that. Shut up. Shh. Yeah. Right, so these, like the other ones, are a simple key and lock. You got the little gap in the... Where's the thing? The camera's moved again. Right, there we go. Honestly, can't get the stuff. You've got the little recess there, which is the lock. I call it a lock. And you've got the little nub there, which is the key. So like before, all we need to do is fumble, because I can't pick things up. Put the polycap in there. Key in the lock. Find the lock. Where is it? There it is. Rotate it round till it locks into place. There we go. And like before, I'll put these all together first and then I'll glue them. So I've not got the glue open for like... I'll be opening and closing the glue constantly. So I'll just get these all together first and then I'll glue them. Oops. Nope. Goes in there. That goes in there. Like that, you see. Kajit has manufactured a wheel. 2 wheels now. It is most impressive. They are the most impressive wheels manufactured in all of Skyrim. Akatosh will be most impressed. I don't know why I'm doing a Khajiit voice while I'm building a Russian tank. Now you see this one's not going in properly. There you go. It is now. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Come on now. Why are you not cooperating? I don't know. Key into hole. There you go. Wheel is complete. Yes. So, what was I talking about? I've got no idea. There we go. I'm quite a slow builder, aren't I? It has come to my attention, although having a dirty great big plaster doesn't help. I am quite a slow builder. Even when it comes to, you know, simple tank wheels. I like to take my time. Ooh, there's a little bit of flashy flash on there. A little bit of sticky up flash. Just quickly scrape that off. It's like a little ejector pin mark, but it's taken a bit of plastic with it. Or left a bit of plastic with it. There it is. Clean that up. You're not going to see it once the wheel's in place, but nice to clean it. Well, I'm sick of trying to get them out of that tin now. Let's just get them out there. There we go. One on there and one on there. These are a bit dusty, but we'll give them a proper brush once they're all glued together. Go on, in you go. There you go. I shall have a look at chat in a moment, peeps. Excuse me, I've got a crackly throat today. Yeah, imagine I'm getting flashbacks of doing this, but with Humbrol poly and a dirty great big brush. Yeah, it's a whole different world back in them days. It's 40 years since I've done this. Can you believe that? God. Some people haven't even lived as long as it's been since I last did this. Some of you out there watching right now haven't even been alive as long as it's been since I last put these wheels together. Scary thoughts. Right. I need to clear my throat, so give me 1 second. There we go, that's better. Let's glue these things together, shall we? Now I'm going to try and keep them as straight as I possibly can, because they need to not be wonky. They don't want to be wonky donkey. And like before, I'm just going to touch the tiniest bit of extra thin to the joint of the wheel, where both sides are. I'll just make sure this one's not sitting quite straight, so I'll make sure it's straight. In fact, that one's not even going on properly. There's something amiss there. What is going on with this one? First wheel I do and it's giving me problems. There you go, there we go, it's better. Wasn't quite seated properly. So that's together. Again, the extra thin glue is thin enough that it will just get sucked in by capillary reaction between the two plastic parts. It does mean that it will weld the two halves together, but it won't get sucked into where the polycap is. So if you were hoping to keep the polycap mobile, if you wanted to remote control this tank, then it would be ideal. I say remote control. I don't think you can remote control it. I think you just quite simply put a motor in it and it trundles along. I've never actually seen anyone do that though, so I don't really know. I mean, you could remote control it. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be that hard. I have to have a look into that. I'm not going to do it, but I was going to, you know. I think you could buy like a motor kit for them, for these kits, these 1/35 military miniatures. Oh, that one's not sitting properly either. Why is this one not going in properly? What is going on here with the knot fitting? What have I done wrong? It could just be that the polycap's getting in the way of the tooth, you see. The key. There we go, it's better. Keep in mind that Tamiya, even today, the majority of Tamiya's business is actually remote control. Oops, too much glue. And the last I heard, the actual scale model side of the business, this military miniature stuff and all the just scale model side, is actually only like a small percentage of their business profit. So it makes sense that back in early days, even though these were just scale miniatures, scale models, they were still catering to the motorizing things end of the market. That's what they did, remote control stuff. Although I don't know if they were doing remote control stuff as much in the early 70s, early to late 70s, I do not know. There we go, that's that one. It needs the lightest touch of glue just to suck the glue into the little gap. Then it'll do its work. You don't need to flood it. In this case I can't even get the brush in there because it's too... There we go. You don't need to be drowning anything in glue. Just enough to make the contact. That's all it needs. Just make sure they're all lined up nice and straight. There we go. Touch of it there. It's the tiniest amount. And they are glued and setting. Make sure those are straight. Yes. Perfect. There we go. Now the wheel tedium hasn't finished here because obviously when it comes to painting these wheels do have their rubber tyre, and when it comes to painting these you'll have to of course paint the rubber tyre on the outside, but it's not actually as tedious as it sounds. And what we'll actually do is we're not going to paint these black as it suggests in the instructions. We're going to use a slightly different method of painting them, a way that I think makes good looking rubber effects. Evolution has occurred in that span of time. Tell me, they're talking about bacon and sausage bake. Bacon? What's bacon? I'm going to eat bacon. It's like Command and Conquer. I'm going to eat bacon in space. Tim Curry. Okay, the next bit is starting to build the lower hull. What time are we on? It's coming up to 1 o'clock. Tell you what we'll do. We'll leave it there because it's coming up to 1 o'clock anyway. The next step we've got is building the lower hull. So we shall leave it there. We built at the wheels. We've not done much really, have we? We've done pretty much not a lot. But I'm quite happy with the wheels. They look quite cool. It's the first time in 40 years I built these. It's been a long time. How long has it been? All the long. Which are the front wheels? The front wheels. The idler wheels go on the front. With their polycapulatories. There you go, see? It's got a polycap on it so it spins around now. It almost comes off. So we're not going to put these on. They'll get painted before they go on. So we shall leave it there, I think. We'll call it a show for today. Thank you very much to everyone who's been watching. I don't know when we'll do the next one. I'm struggling to having a big stretch. Ooh. Oh, I just needed a big stretch then. I don't know when the next one will be. This sort of morning slot's perfect for me for getting this kind of stuff done, because it fits around real life stuff. So it'll probably be another morning slot, whether it's tomorrow or Friday, I don't know yet. But we'll get these done ASAP. We'll get the build done, and then once the build's all done through live streams, I can crack on with painting and getting it all painted up for you, and film some proper painting videos, or a proper painting video. But until then, I think we'll leave it there. So thank you very much for watching, all of you who have. Don't forget, of course, do go and visit eModels.co.uk. There's a link in the description below. It's your one-stop shop for all your model making needs. Big thanks to the guy at eModels.co.uk who supplied me with this kit for these videos and live streams. I don't work for eModels. I just make stuff for them and make content for them. So big thanks to them for providing this. They provided this to me free of charge. But of course, it goes back into their cabinets once it's been built and painted. So I don't get to keep this. There's a few things I do actually. I've still got the Falcon I need to take back to them, and a few other bits and bobs that I need to give back to them to put in their cabinets. But of course, with everything going on, I can't just go there and drop them off. So at some point, I will go back down to eModels and drop off the Falcon and things like that. I don't know. But Dave Cardboard has just come in just as I'm wrapping up. So thank you very much for coming in, Dave. Thanks. Hi. Bye. But we'll be back. I'll be back because we've got all the rest of the build to do, and I'll just live stream the build as we go along in the coming days. So do stay tuned. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, so you know when one of these streams starts. It may be that I start a stream and I haven't had time to let James know, so he may not be able to put it on the website or on the eModels Facebook page quickly enough. So do make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, so you get notified if a stream does start. But until then, I shall say thank you very much for watching. I will go away and let these set for a bit, and then we'll stream the next step. Until then, though, take care of yourselves. Go make something awesome. Don't forget Carl's video. The next instalment of the Ford ambulance, Model T Ford ambulance, is up now, so you can go and watch that. And I shall see you maybe tomorrow, maybe in the next few days. But until then, I shall say take care of yourselves. Go make something awesome like this. Go be awesome. And until next time, adios amibas.